So as I mentioned, Postgres is another kind of database, right? So we have two of them. So then what else is there? SQL related database. It's just a table and column, right? So you have the Oracle's product also. A lot of SQL databases are available, right? So if we just go to the NoSQL database, you might have heard the word of Firebase, right? So that's a product of the Google. So you can just store the values without the rows and columns. So that is a Firebase. If I go for it to MongoDB, right? MongoDB Atlas. So that's against a Python most favorable, right? So these are all some of the database of the NoSQL database. So we can just add lot of things, time series database, lot of databases are available, but I'm just restricting again over here. So these are all the front end and back end languages which we will try to use it here. So I'll just add one more thing over here. You might have here the terminology called a Flask. Just give you once more here. Okay, not a Flask. I don't want to mention it. So consider some of the programming languages which soft job question, right? You might have here mean stack developer, mean stack, right? Mean stack developer, mean stack developer. So these are all some of the job posting. So they will hire it for a full stack development, right? So mean stack is nothing but a MongoDB, Express, Angular, and Node.js is called as a mean stack. So mean stack, if I just mention over here, like a MongoDB, Express, React, and Node.js. So it's like the combination of language what we are going to use it for a front end and back end, right? So that's what mostly we will try to split it across according to programming language. So let us keep it aside, but I'll explain each one of them where what's the see if I'm going to select a NoSQL out of SQL, there has to be some kind of importance, right? I'll explain you why we want to select over each one of them. So consider I'm just going to select a MySQL instead of the Postgres in SQL itself. So that has a number of read and writes, lot of criteria needs to be considered before selecting the particular database. We are just going to see in depth in a coming sessions, right? So let's do it. So let me go to the next slide. So what is introduction to aspect ratio and functionalities, right? So what is aspect ratio? Aspect ratio is nothing but the LB, right? Length into breadth of the screen. So consider my laptop might have a bigger screen, right? And the height has been different. When you use the mobile phone, the size is going to be, right? Let me just draw some more here. So consider if I'm going to use the laptop, my size is going to be like this, right? So when I'm going to use the mobile phone here, my size is going to be like this. So when I use the tablet, either I can go ahead with like in this position, or I can just use it in a horizontal position. So this is like again, the aspect ratio is nothing but this cross corner is called as aspect ratio. Let me try it once more. So consider this portion to this portion is called as aspect ratio, right? I'll just change the color over here. So this is aspect ratio. So you have to consider the aspect ratio before you are going to develop the application and going to do this, right? So I can't use the same kind of aspect ratio for a mobile. So what happened? The content will move out of the screen. So it makes the user it's not a user experience, right? Again, so you are not allowed to use this. So when you are going to use so this is so important when you are just selecting the programming or selecting the UI, right? So it has to be considered. Then why we are going for a different set of language? As I mentioned earlier, we have lot of applications, right? Either we can go for a Java, we can go for a Kotlin, or you can go for a C Sharp, right? Why we are going for this? Because each of them we can't use the same kind of code to access the functionalities, right? So we want to have something on their own languages to use the functionalities, core functionalities. So that's where coming into the picture. If I'll write over here again on a text box. See, I just want to build application for a Windows, right? What's the language I'll try to use? So C sharp I'll try to use here. When I try to use it for a mobile application, right? Consider especially Android. So I have to write it either a Java or Kotlin, right? So these are two languages, right? If I want to write it for Apple or Mac, right? Apple's product I'm just mentioning over here, I have to use this language, right? So then if I want to build application for a Ubuntu, they again on a DPN file, then the language is again going to change over here. So each of the languages differs, right? To mingle it or combine it together, we have the native application. That is what I mentioned as a like a Flutter or React Native. Okay, so then why we are going for, even if I'm going to use the native application right completely like a Flutter or React Native, it doesn't provide the core functionalities. Again, the library has to be combined together with any of these languages to obtain some kind of specific function. So we are just going to see all the things in depth, how why we are choosing these languages and what's the functionalities we will get out of it, right? So we are just going to see it on a brief. Okay. Thank you guys. I'm going to explain on a further classes how to select the languages and how to optimize it. Sure.